Decision making. Decision making can make or break your business. It can make or break your department if you make the wrong decision or if you make the right decision. That right decision can lead to massive profit, massive opportunities, great business decision. Pat yourself on the back. Well done. Team loves you. Decision making is so important as a leader. As a leader, you cannot sit on the fence the whole time. You can sit on the fence initially, make the decision left or right, but then you move forward. You must make that decision. And that is the responsibility of us as leaders. The question comes, how do we make the best decisions? And that's what I want to share this week on JTInTheRaw, show 278. Show 278. So welcome to JTInTheRaw, where I chew the thin on business, and after 34 years in business, I have just a few thins to chew. And after this week, where I had my first face-to-face Rex Roundtable meeting in nearly a year, I learned a lot about decision making. So welcome to the show, and let's just chew the thin. Hi Marissa, hi Jackie, great having you guys on board this morning, Hans. So far I got 3 people live who are all overseas. So the first thing we need to think about when we're making decisions is this: we need a cool head. We need a cool head. So before we make decisions, Nikki in New Zealand as well, another overseas person. If you're overseas, pop in the comments below what country you're watching from, whether you're live or on replay. Love to know what country you're from. So just pop that in the comments below. Okay, so the first part of making a decision is that you need a cool head. Often, probably more often than not, in the decision-making process that we go through, we are emotional. And emotions can cloud our decision-making. Sometimes unintentionally, and we're unaware of that decision. That emotion that's clouding us. So we need that cool head before we make it. All right. So how do we get cool? Well, we take some time. So if we need time before we need to make the decision, then we tell the people that we're working with, just give me 5 minutes. Give me 24 hours. Give me 48 hours. I just want to go away and think about this. It's okay to take time to make a decision. It is okay. In fact, giving yourself that timeline will actually help in that process of, or in the process of making that decision. So 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 24 hours, a week, whatever time you need to take. Good morning, Mira. Good morning, Carol. Whatever time you need to take, give yourself that time. Okay? You need to stop, you need to breathe, you need to make that decision. Now, perhaps the most important thing for me around decision making is your own mindset. It's got to be your own mindset. Your mindset has to say, I am open to the best idea. Again, this becomes an important component as a leader. Sometimes as leaders, we already have the decision made up in our mind. And regardless of what anybody says, we're still going to go down that road. So it's okay to cool our heels, cool our jets, go away and think about it. But coinciding with that must be our willingness to come up with the best solution. And that's our mindset. We have to be open to the best option. It's not the first option. And we can't be tied to something. The success of this decision comes back to being open to ideas. For many in leadership roles, this is possibly the hardest part. We get emotionally tied to a project, a product, a service. We get emotionally tied to that. So while we say to people, yep, I'm open to ideas on how to make it, you're not. Your mind is closed off. So that is the challenge for many of us. All right. So then let's imagine that you are now open to ideas. Your mindset is open. Let's imagine that you could get to that state. And I challenge you to be in that state. I believe there are then two options that you have. You have the DIY option and the DIWF option. The DIY option and the DIWF. DIY is do it yourself. So part of that decision making, Steve Jensen, good morning. Part of that DIY option is that you sit down and you write the pros and the cons out of the decision that you're about to make. What are all the advantages of going with option A? What are all the advantages of that? But then what are the disadvantages of that? That's DIY. That's you doing it with a whiteboard, with a piece of paper, with whatever it may be. What I would absolutely categorically emphasize is that you need to write it down. Don't think pros and cons. Put the pros and cons down on paper so that you can see them. Maybe even do it over a couple of days, a couple of sittings, coming up with the pros and cons of your different options in that decision making. Now that is the DIY option. The DIWF option is the do it with friends. Do it with friends. Could be DIWC, do it with colleagues. And this is because people have different perspectives. We all come from a different angle on that decision making. That comes from our own experience. Our own experiences, our own life experiences, our own business experiences, our own thought processes, but we see that decision from a different perspective. Perhaps it's a perspective that you've never considered. In fact, this week, this show is all inspired by someone who had a decision that needed to be made at our roundtable meeting, and they were open to different ideas, which was fantastic. And this was the catchphrase that really caught me and inspired me for this week's show. I never thought of it that way. Let me say that again, because that took enormous courage from this person to say it. I never thought of it that way. And that is why DIWF or DIWC, do it with friends or do it with colleagues, is so important because of those different perspectives. We completely opened a can of worms for this individual because we gave these new ideas that he had not and she had not considered. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the power of decision making when it's unemotional. When you're not under that tight time frame, you can be unemotional, you can have people give you that feedback and those thoughts. Now, what I can guarantee is the people that we worked with this week in our roundtable, absolutely, categorically, I can guarantee he will come up with the best decision for his business, his family, and himself. Those three stakeholders, the business, the family, and himself, will all be taken into account because we had different perspectives. So, the message that I'm trying to get through to you guys today, decision making in your business will be clouded by your emotions. Matty Fletcher, good morning. Sean, good morning. Will be clouded by your own emotions. They may even be clouded by your own experiences. How do you break away from that? Take a breath, step back, have a cool head, cool your jets. Give yourself time to think about what that decision is. Hours, days, weeks, whatever the case may be. Give yourself that time. And then use one of two options. DIY, do it yourself, pros and cons of each of the decisions that you've got to make. Or DIWF or DIWC, do it with friends or do it with colleagues who will give you a different perspective. Ladies and gentlemen, when you take these options, the decisions that you make in your business, in your department, and maybe even in your life, will be smarter decisions because they'll be less emotional. Less emotional. And that is my lesson for this week. Hope you've enjoyed JTInTheRaw. Hope I've got you thinking about how you're going to make decisions moving forward. DIY, DIWF or DIWC. Try to get different ideas when you make those decisions. That is my goal for you. Ladies and gents, if you've got any value out of the show, as always, I'd love a love heart, whether you're watching live or on replay. Hit me with a love heart. And if you know anybody that could get any value out of today's show, please either hit the share button or tag them in the comments below. Pop them, tag it in below. Remember, anybody that is watching from overseas, live or on replay, I just saw Dwayne jump in. Pop in the comments below. I'd love to know what country you're in. That would be awesome. But yes, takeaway today is decision making, unemotional, unclouded, getting different perspectives, taking a breath to make the right decision for you personally, for your family, and for your business. They're your three stakeholders in your life, so make the right ones. Hey, I'll catch you same time next week. Catch you on the flip side.